Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name's Erica. Today we're going to be sewing matching gingham pillowcases. Hi and welcome back to my channel. In the last video we made this adorable gingham quilt on the wall behind me. It was so fast and easy, and of course I wanted to show you how to make matching pillowcases. So these are our gingham pillowcases. This is the standard size and that's what we're going to be making in today's video, but the PDF instructions come with standard, queen, and king sizes, so you can make any size to fit your particular bed. I'm using this super cute Christmas fabric from Sweetwater. I love it so much, as you saw in the quilt version of this video. If you didn't see how to make this quilt, I will link it right here so you can go back and watch that as well. And I think they both just turned out so cute. So let's go ahead and get started sewing our matching pillowcases. So for this project, you're going to need 4 strips that are 5.5 inch wide by width of fabric of your medium print. You're going to need 2 strips 5.5 inches by width of fabric of your dark print. And you're going to need 2 strips 5.5 inches by width of fabric of your light print. And then you're going to need 1 piece that is width of fabric by about 13 inches for the cuff of your pillow. You're also going to need some extra for your backing. Now this is going to vary based on the size of pillow top that you're making. For the standard pillow top we're making today, you're going to need a strip that is 23 inches wide by width of fabric, but that might be wider for your king and queen. So just follow the instructions on the PDF download. Aside from that, you'll need a ruler. This is a 6.5 by 23.5 inch Creative Grids ruler. You're going to need a rotary trimmer. That's my Olfa. It's my favorite. You're also going to need some pins. Some scissors are helpful, and then I always like to use a hair marker. This is perfect for turning out the corners and edges of our pillow project. I think that's it for supplies. Let's go ahead and get started sewing. And how we're going to sew these is we're going to do 1 set that is the dark. This is going to be our dark set. So we're going to do 2 reds or 2 darks and 2 mediums. Like that. Okay, and we're going to just sew these together along those long seams, and then I'm going to press towards my medium. Then we're going to make a strip. So let's just scoot these over. And we're going to make a strip that's our light strip set, and we're going to have 2 of our lights and 2 of our medium. Okay, so I'm going to sew 2 strip sets, a light strip set and a dark strip set, with 4 strips in each set. I'm not even cutting off my selvage edges for these. We can just sew. We're going to press both of our strip sets towards this medium print. So here is my finished light set, and then here is my finished dark set. And then now we're going to press both of these, and we're going to press towards this medium print. That way all of our seams will nest nicely. So obviously if I was doing this just at home, I would press these on my larger ironing board, but I am going to do it here for you guys so you can kind of see. I don't know, I'm a little bit lazy about it when I have big long seams like this, but if you set your seams like this, it'll really help keep all of those seams straight. So we'll just press that down. I'm probably not going to do it on all of these because, like I said, I get a little bit lazy when I've got long seams like this. Sometimes I will just press them without setting my seams first. But it will help you have straighter seams if you press first. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of tug down here on the bottom, not a lot, just enough so that I can get a good crease right there. And I'm just going to keep doing that as I move down, because you just want that nice and flat right there. And then I'll do the same thing on this side. And like I said, I'm just pressing all of these panels towards this medium print. That way when we go to sew them together, they'll nest perfectly. I'm just going to kind of do one side and then I'll do the other side. And if you made one of the quilts, this part is going to seam really fast, because the quilts you had a lot more rows to work with. So here is our finished light set. And I am just going to set that one aside, and then I'm going to press the dark set. And same deal, I'm going to press towards the medium. And no matter how big or small you make these, as long as you press all of your strips towards that medium print, all of your seams will always nest, which is awesome. All right, here is our finished dark strip set. So I'm gonna go ahead and just fold my piece in half so that I can cut more than one. And we need to cut 4 strips off of this, which, by the way, means you're gonna have some leftover. First, I'm just gonna trim off this edge, and I'm just going to line up some of my ruler lines and one of these straight lines on the bottom down here, just so I can make sure I get a nice straight cut. Okay, now I have a nice even edge over here to work with, and then we need to cut these into 5.5 inch strips, and we need 4 of them. So there's 2, 4, and then you can set this aside. So those are my 4 dark strips, and then I'm going to cut 4 light strips. So again, I'm just going to use my ruler to line up on those seam lines, trim off my selvage, and then trim off 4 of these. Okay, let's see if we can fit them on here. So now we're just going to lay out our strip sets, alternating our darks with our lights. And so now your medium prints should be exactly opposite. And we have a lovely gingham pattern. Oops, that one's backwards. There we go. Okay, so now I just need to take these over and sew them together all in rows. And to go ahead and do that, let's just scoot these rows out of the way for a sec. I'm just gonna work with 2 at a time, and I'm just gonna flip this over right sides down on to the first row, and then we're going to pin at each one of these junctions. Because we press these in opposite directions, you can see nice that those seams are going to nest. So this bottom one is going to the right, the top one is going to the left, and you can just kind of squish those together with your fingers until they meet. And then I'm going to go ahead and just stick a pin right there, and I go in one side of the seam and then out the other side. So that's kind of what it looks like, kind of at an angle there. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that for each one of these seams. And just to save myself some time, I'll probably prepare more than one of these strip sets at a time. So I'll probably prepare that one, and then I'll prepare this one and these last 2. And then that way I can just take them over to my machine, and I can just kind of chain piece them all and just go really fast. Jax just joined the party. If you're new here, Jax is our kitty, resident kitty. And he likes to be involved in all things sewing and yarn related. I'm gonna need that. Do your guys' animals do that? He literally will come, and if there's something on my table, he will lay smack dab right on top of it. Just no mercy. Last one. So now I'm going to take these all over to my machine, and I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch down all of these edges that have the pins on them. And then when we're done, we'll just open them up, and I'm not even going to press them until we're all the way done. So I'll just take this panel and sew it to this panel and so on. All right, so I've got all my pairs sewn together. And I'm just gonna make sure my prints are going the right way. Fold that right sides over on top of that one. Go ahead and pin again. You could also use Clover Wonder Clips if you don't want to pin. Those are nice and handy. Whenever I'm trying to be kind of precise with my points like this though, I do tend to prefer pins. I like my Clover Wonder Clips for things like bags and bulkier things like that. So okay, now we can take these and sew down, and then we'll sew those two together and we'll be done. So here is our finished gingham portion, and as I showed before, I pressed all the original rows towards the medium, and then when I put it together I pressed towards the dark rows, and then that way it's going to kind of hide our seams. Now you have a couple of options here to back this, because we're going to have these raw seams on the back of our pillow if we were to just go ahead and put it into pillow right now, which you can do. It's not a huge deal, but I like to kind of cover up these raw seams just so they aren't fraying when you're washing your pillow. So you can either put some batting on the back of this and quilt it just like you kind of normally would, or I've decided actually to use some just plain white fabric. So I've just got to cut a piece that is 23 inches by width of fabric, and your piece might need to be longer if you're making the queen size or king size pillow. Not longer, but wider this way, because when you're making those extra pillows for queen size, you'll need one more row right here, and then for king size you'll need 2 more rows. But either way, you're only going to have 8 rows going this way. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I've just got a piece that's a little bit bigger than my gingham section, just to allow for a little bit of movement. And I'm actually just going to use some 505 basting spray, and I'm just going to baste this to hold it in place just like I would if I were doing a regular quilt like batting. I'm just going to spray a little bit of that on there and then roll it down and just try and keep everything nice and flat. And then I'm just going to fold back this side and do the same thing. And this is basically how I quilt my quilts as well. Just make sure you don't have any red threads peeking out on your white. And this is basically just to hold it in place. We're going to run some quilting stitches down this. It's going to kind of give it that quilted look, but it's also going to hold the backing on. And then now when we put this into our pillow, we'll have a solid fabric backing. So now I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew 1/4 of an inch on both sides of my vertical seams and 1/4 inch on both sides of my horizontal seams. That's going to give it that kind of patchworky feel. It's also going to kind of bring out the gingham and just make that pop. All right, here is our finished section, and I've gone ahead and done, like I said, horizontal and then vertical quilting on it, and then that's just going to attach that to our backing so we don't have any raw seams on the back side of our quilt. So perfect. Now we just need to trim off these edges, and so I'm just going to line up my ruler with my fabric and just get rid of any of this extra white that I have. I'm going to do the short sides first. And then I'll trim the long sides. Okay, so here is our completed pillow gingham section, and now we're going to do something magical. So I'm going to grab the piece that I cut off, and this is going to be the same size no matter what size pillow you're making. So it's 13 inches by width of fabric. So now we are going to line up our cuff fabric with our pillow. Now this is going to basically be your pillows are always going to be 8 long, so you're only going to have these 8 units all the way across no matter what size pillow you make. Okay, so now we're going to turn our fabric so it is open. Here's the folded edge of my fabric, and my salvages are down here on these far ends, and so that's how you're going to want yours to look. And we're going to sew that to this pillow top, but I have a little trick for you. It's going to make sure that we don't have any raw seams inside. Now I'm going to fold this down, right sides down, on top of our cuff piece. And I'm actually going to turn this around so that I can do this a little bit easier. So here is my piece. I've got my cuff fabric and then my pillow fabric right side down with the 41 inches going across. Next, we're going to start down here from the bottom, and I'm just gonna start kind of rolling this up. And we're just gonna roll, roll, roll all the way till about right here, so that this pillow part is kind of out of our way. Then we're gonna grab the other side of our cuff fabric and pull that up to meet these edges. And I'm just gonna go ahead and stick a clip or a pin or whatever there. And then we're going to line up this edge too. And now I'm just gonna be lining up the edges of my cuff fabric to make sure everything is straight. And you can do clips, you can do pins. I'm actually probably gonna pin this, but I like to kind of clip it in place first and just make sure all of that is perfectly straight. Okay, now I'm going to just start putting some pins in, and I feel like the clips just kind of can hold it for me while I get to my pins. And you're gonna wanna make sure that you've got both your cuff layers and your gingham layer all nice and lined up along this raw edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pin it in place all the way down, just making sure all of those layers stay together. Now we're gonna take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm gonna sew down this edge using about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, just slightly bigger than your 1/4 inch. That's just gonna make sure that we're getting all of those layers in nicely, and we're gonna sew all the way down this edge. Okay, so here is our burrito roll, all nice and sewed, and then we just need to carefully reach inside, and we're basically gonna just pull out the inside pillow portion from the cuff that we just sewed, and then we will have a nice finished seam in there. And just be careful and take your time. This process is like magic, because now we have a lovely cuff. Okay, so this is what we should be looking like. Now we still have our same pillow top that we had, but now we've got this lovely cuff added onto the end, and as you'll see, there's a finished seam on both sides, so no raw edges. Now our next step is just to press this down, and so I'm just gonna kind of tug on it from both sides and just make sure that I don't have any creases here or here, okay? And so I'm just kind of pulling on it from both sides, just making sure it's nice and flat. And so we're just gonna do that all the way down, just like this, super easy. And it's so cute. And you could even add another little extra, if you wanted like a accent color right here, like a little green strip or a white strip just to kind of break up the red, you could totally do that. And I do have a video for that on how to add that accent. If you like, I'll link it here for you. Just gives it a little bit extra. But I'm now gonna take this to my machine, and I'm just gonna run a top stitch right along this seam right here, and then I'm also probably gonna do one along this seam about 3/4 of an inch in from the folded edge, and I think that just gives it a little bit more of a finished look to it, and it kind of helps the cuff stay in place as well. So here's what I went ahead and did. I just did one stitch down here at the gingham, which kind of matches all of this quilting that we did down here, and then I just did 2 stitches about 1/8 or so of an inch apart on this folded edge. So you can do whatever you like. And then next we just need to get rid of our overage here because we've got some extra fabric there. So I'm gonna go ahead now and just trim that up, and I'm just lining my ruler up with the rest of my pillow top, and then picking like a line up here just to make sure it's square. Then we're gonna do the same thing on this side. Okay, now everything is nice and lined up. All right, now we're going to, and this is gonna seem a little bit weird, but we're gonna fold this in half with our cuffs matching and our wrong sides together. So the inside of our pillow is gonna be together. Okay, and I'm just gonna turn to the side so I can reach mine a little bit better. We're gonna just line up everything nice and straight right along this edge. And if you have, mine is off just slightly down here. So I'm just gonna trim that up. I've got just a slight bit off up here on this cuff, so I'm just gonna trim that off. It's literally like that much, 1/8 of an inch. So, okay, and then I've got a little bit off on the bottom. So I'm just gonna trim that up just so everything is nice and straight. Again, this much off, okay? Okay, so everything is nice and trimmed, and now I'm going to pin along these two open edges just to keep everything nice and straight. So I'm going to pin all the way down this side, and I am kind of making sure that the cuff lines up okay. I'm not too picky about it, I guess. You can be more picky if you like. And so I've pinned down this open edge, and that's technically the bottom of our pillow, and this is the side. And yes, I know we've got our wrong sides together, so just bear with me. We are going to have a finished pillow top with no raw seams on the inside when we're done. So I've got my folded edge down here. You can see it's folded. And then I've got my two sides that are raw edges over here, okay? And so I'm going to sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance down both of these open sides. Okay, so we've sewn all the way around, and now we're gonna do a couple of things. One, I'm just gonna carefully trim off, we can use some scissors for this part. I'm just gonna carefully trim off this corner. Just like if I was turning out a bag, I'm just gonna kind of trim it at a diagonal just to take away some of that bulk. And I'm gonna trim off just a little bit of this one. Don't cut into your stitch line. Next, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm gonna place it right on my stitch line at the 1/8 of a mark. I'm going to cut off, leaving 1/8 of a bit of fabric to the outside edge of my stitch line. So instead of having 1/4 of an inch, now we're going to only have 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so we're just going to cut off 1/8 of an inch of fabric on both of these sides. Both of these sides that we stitched on. And just take your time, go slow, especially if you didn't have a perfectly straight stitch line. Okay, all right, so we just trimmed off 1/8 of an inch all the way around those two sides that we sewed on. And now we're gonna fold our pillow right side out. So now we wanna press this, and I also like to use my hair marker just to kind of go down that seam line and just kind of push it out. So I just am using the rounded edge now, and you can kind of see it pushing. You can kind of do this with your finger too if you don't have one of these, but they're helpful. Okay, so I was just using this edge to just go right along there and just kind of roll that seam out so it's nice and straight. And now we're going to press that. And if you want, I don't think it's really necessary at this stage, but if it's not staying, you can throw a couple pins or wonder clips in there. Okay, and then we're gonna do the same thing on this long edge. I'm actually gonna turn it this way so I can get inside there. I'm just gonna go down with my hair marker and just roll out that edge. All right, so now we have both of our sewn sides just pressed out really nice and flat, and you should kind of be able to feel that 1/8 of an inch seam that we cut, just sticking to that inside. We're gonna take this over to our sewing machine and sew one more time all the way down this edge, this time using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And the whole time we're sewing, we just wanna be aware, we can kind of feel where that seam is. We wanna make sure that we're sewing to this side of that seam so that we're catching that raw seam inside here. That's called a French seam. And then when you flip it right side out, you'll have finished seams on both sides of your pillow. So here we are at our sewing machine, and I want to make sure that I'm sewing just to the inside edge, and I can kind of feel that seam right inside there. I want to sew to this side of it, not on top of it. If you sew on top of it, your raw edge is going to show when you flip your pillow right side out. So if you're going to err on the caution, on the side of anything, error by making the seam larger. So maybe like 3/8 of an inch instead of 1/4 of an inch. I am going to backstitch at my stop and start just to again give this a little bit of extra support for when you're putting your pillows in and out. When I get down to my corner, I'm going to stop 3/8 of an inch from the edge, leave my needle in the down position, raise my presser foot, turn my pillow, and then I can keep sewing. So here we are. Now we have nice finished seams all throughout the inside of our pillow. And now we can go ahead and turn it right side out and we're all done, and we'll have finished seams on the outside as well. And because we did the French seam, I do like to just go along and just make sure if you have any little threads poking out, you know, fix that. I'm also going to give this one last press, and I'm going to poke out those corners as well. So here is our finished pillowcase. I think it turned out super cute. This is the standard size pillowcase. If you'd like to make a queen or king size pillowcase, the instructions are in the PDF download, so make sure you download that. I will put a link for it right below this video. All right guys, that is it for our pillowcase tutorial. As you can see, it was super fast and easy with that burrito roll method and the French seams. And now we have an adorable pillowcase to match our gingham quilt. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please make sure to thumbs up and subscribe. That way I know to keep making them for you. And don't forget to download the pattern in the description box below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next one. Oh, my daughter stole my pans. Hold, please. I'm gonna need that. Do your guys' animals do that? He literally will come, and if there's something on my table, he will lay smack dab right on top of it. Just no mercy. And if I clean off the table for him, and there's not like a pile of stuff for him to lay in, then he walks around until he finds something that he can lay in. So he has his own little fabric basket over there that he's usually in, but I guess for now, he's on the desk. Okay, please come right in the middle of my video. I literally am filming right now. Did you try and just get that in my... Oh, okay. The Outlaws Accomplice coming soon. This is our proof copy. Gotta do a little bit of work on the cover because you can't quite see our design on there, but ooh, yay. Coming soon. Yeah. Bye. Shut the door. Sorry about that. Okay. This is hard to explain with words. Oh my gosh. That's a lot of gingham.